Welcome to Reds Focus LFC fans.
Big Liverpool news today. Arne Slot's verdict on Alexander Isak, 4 January transfer targets revealed, and Harry Kane tries to block Liverpool's plans. Plus, Virgil van Dijk's message about Mo Salah and Liverpool's Klopp 2.0 update. If you love daily Liverpool updates, hit subscribe and turn on the bell. Let's jump in. Arne Slot gives in-depth Alexander Isak appraisal and names Liverpool players he's missing. Liverpool head coach Arne Slot talks at length about £125 million British transfer record signing Alexander Isak, whose struggles continued in the 1-1 draw with Sunderland. When it was put to Arne Slot that Alexander Isak is having so few touches while leading the Liverpool line on Friday, the head coach had a statistic up his sleeve that was enough to suggest the £125 million striker's contributions had been sufficiently analyzed at the AXA training center. Isak, in his last 2 Anfield starts at Anfield in the Premier League, has had less than 30 touches of the ball. He is averaging 14 per game, and while his goal at West Ham United last week was expertly taken, Wednesday night's 1-1 draw with Sunderland once more saw the Sweden international on the periphery, taken off in the second period with Liverpool needing a goal. The Reds boss informed the press on Friday morning that his new number 9 was only averaging 22 touches per game at his previous club, presenting the idea that even when Isak was plundering 23 goals for Newcastle United, he was often being used selectively in the build-up. Such is a striker's lot. Erling Haaland, arguably the greatest goal scorer of his generation, sees his output put under the microscope on those rare occasions that his name doesn't appear on a Manchester City scoresheet. And at a time when Isak is still adapting to a new club with more sizable demands and ambitions, on the back of no preseason and a month-long absence with a groin injury, it should be no shock that the most expensive forward in Liverpool and British football history has yet to show why he was pursued so vigorously in the transfer window. Slot says, "When I leave this room, I'm going to have breakfast, and then medical staff will come in with a list of players who they feel might not be a risk. Risk is not a good word. He had a lot of workload is the way we describe it, and I would be surprised when it comes to Alex's name that they don't say anything. But I think he is getting closer and closer to having regular starts, so it could mean he plays tomorrow, or it could mean he plays Tuesday. I think physically, after 3 or 4 months now, he's getting closer and closer to that situation where he plays more, which we have already seen because I have played in 2 in a row. At St. James Park, the Eddie Howe game plan was tailored to present Isak with the best chances to score, with Jacob Murphy in particular a creative force for supplying his teammate. Many of the winger's 12 assists last time out were for the former Real Sociedad man, but at Anfield, he is having to modify his game to thrive with forwards like Mohamed Salah and Cody Gakpo, who will regularly cut inside and are tasked with sharing the goal-scoring burden. With Jeremy Frimpong being injured and Connor Bradley being out, it is not like we have so many options on the right-hand side, and it is a bit similar on the left side, argues Slot. I think Alex could benefit maybe from a Connor Bradley or a Jeremy Frimpong type of player who goes outside, instead of both wingers we have who come in and fullbacks who can come in with crosses. But the main difference for him is that we are facing here many times a low block, and it is not that it never happened at Newcastle, but not as much, I think. I think this season the league has changed. We see so many more low blocks than I saw last season. But I see this not only against us, I see this in many games. It makes it harder for him compared to his time at Newcastle, but I think it is also him adjusting to his teammates and his teammates adjusting to him. But it is obvious and clear that we have not the profile of Jacob Murphy, for example, available at this moment at this time. I think the best way to judge that is if he scores 5 or 6 goals in 3 or 4 games. But I don't think you can compare the two of them in terms of presence. One is, I don't know how high and big, and Alex is slimmer. But the Alexander Isak who scored so many goals for Newcastle and then was standing there when we played the League Cup final, and I thought, I would love to have him in my team. He has presence. Presence also comes with confidence, and confidence comes from scoring a lot of goals and wins. He definitely has this presence. That's what I felt, and I think what our players felt when we played against him last season. Gerard Houllier used to suggest, over 2 decades ago, that he would only be worried about Michael Owen's occasional droughts if the chances were drying up rather than the goals. And while such a stance remains a universal truth for the game's deadliest center forwards, Isak is having to feast off scraps in that regard at present. The 26-year-old has had just 3 shots on target inside the 18-yard box in his 7 league appearances so far, with the Reds. It's far from an ideal return 3 months into his career on Merseyside, even if Slot will always attempt to look at things with a wider lens. There is, though, a train of thought that suggests the ever-dwindling attention span in the modern game has made it easier to forget that Isak, for all the indifference of recent weeks, had 54 Premier League goals in just 86 Newcastle appearances before he moved. Slot says, "I think I said back then that we signed him for 6 years, not for 3 months. And I've tried to make it clear from the start how difficult the first few months would be for him. Every player wants to play 90 minutes, so it's not nice for Alex to play 60, go off the next game, and another one comes in and then he can play 60 again. That's not the way you want to start your career at Liverpool. It is far, far from an ideal situation, but again, this club doesn't buy a player for half a year. We bought him for 6 years. As a result of that, people are now coming with stats about his 12 games. In terms of minutes, I'm sure it is less than 12 90-minute games. But we are living in a grown-up world, and the life of a striker is always like this. I assume he also had spells in his career when he didn't score for a few games in a row. If you do what Alex has done, I don't think it would influence your confidence that much. But of course it is nicer for a number 9 to start your career at a new club scoring immediately goal after goal. But that was so unrealistic straight away. I've tried to say it in my words without making it too obvious, but it's almost something we could expect. If a player starts in the middle of a season, by September 1st we had already played 3 games, and his level is not as high as the others, and we have 3 games a week, so there is hardly any time to train. And the level of the Premier League is not like other leagues I could mention. It does take time for any player to get to the levels we want, but I have no doubt that eventually he will become the player we signed him to be. Sometimes, like last week, he has already shown it.
4 players on Liverpool January transfer radar, including Michael Olise. It's claimed Liverpool is looking to strengthen its squad in the January transfer window, with 4 players on the club's radar: Michael Olise, Kenan Yildiz, Rodrigo, and Iliman Ndiaye. As the January transfer window approaches, it's believed Liverpool is exploring potential deals that could help restore its former success under Arne Slot. This comes after a summer of major upheaval, which brought in several high-profile signings, though at substantial cost. The price wasn't purely monetary, as the arrival of new players appears to have upset the team's equilibrium. While strengthening the defense might be a priority, given the backline's fragile appearance, there's also persistent talk about potential forward signings. Liverpool's reshuffle the CAC hasn't quite clicked yet, and whispers of possible additions in wide areas hint that there could be activity in the winter market. Antoine Semenyo is one name being linked with the Reds, and his £65 million or $85.6 million release clause could facilitate a quick deal. However, it appears there are 4 other players on Liverpool's watch list who could further enhance the team's forward options. According to Bild, the Merseyside club is weighing up Michael Olise, Kenan Yildiz, Rodrigo, and Iliman Ndiaye as potential targets in the coming weeks. This certainly showcases the quality of player Liverpool is eyeing, those who can make an immediate impact and still have plenty of their prime years ahead. Olise made a significant mark during his time at Crystal Palace and has continued to shine since his move to Bayern Munich, notching up 29 goals and 34 assists in 76 appearances for the German team. While landing Olise seems a tall order for Liverpool, the remaining 3 names on the club's shortlist could be more within reach if the right offer comes along. Former Sheffield United star Ndiaye has shown considerable talent since joining Everton, and while he's an appealing prospect, the Merseyside rivalry makes such a transfer highly unlikely. The last direct switch between the clubs happened way back in 2002. Real Madrid's Rodrigo has been the talk of the town recently, with doubts over his playing time in an attack that includes Kylian Mbappe and Vinicius Jr. in his favored positions. The financial implications of such a transfer remain uncertain and could pose a significant challenge to navigate in the January window. As for Kenan Yildiz, the 20-year-old has carved out a regular spot in Juventus's first team, and with an impressive tally of goals and assists already under his belt, he certainly looks like a promising long-term investment. It remains to be seen whether any of those four will face closer examination in January, as the Reds are in dire need of a fresh impetus. The Reds are 9th in the Premier League.
Harry Kane aims to thwart Liverpool transfer plans with ambitious plea. Liverpool remains an admirer of Crystal Palace centre-back Mark Guéhi, but Harry Kane is reportedly pushing for the England centre-back to join him at Bayern Munich. Harry Kane is reportedly trying to convince Mark Guéhi to join him at Bayern Munich, in a move that would come as a blow to Liverpool. The Reds tried to sign Guéhi during the summer transfer window and came close to doing so, getting as far as agreeing a fee with Crystal Palace for the center-back, only for Palace to pull the plug on the deal at the 11th hour. Guéhi is set to become a free agent on July 1st next year, and he will be free to sign a pre-contract agreement with clubs outside of England from New Year's Day. Bayern could be in the market for a new center-back amid Dayot Upamecano's uncertain future at the club. The Frenchman, like Guéhi, is out of contract at the end of the season. Reports in Germany say that Kane is attempting to convince Guéhi to join him in Bavaria. Kane reportedly also played a role in Bayern signing Eric Dyer from former club Tottenham in January 2024. Meanwhile, Peter Crouch has told Liverpool that it must attempt to try and sign Guéhi in January after missing out on him during the summer window. Center half needs strengthening. They did try and get someone in the summer, and I think that was needed, Crouch told Paddy Power. They addressed the fullback situation, but they've not quite performed yet. I think that's the reason why there's been a drop-off. You've got a settled back four there last season with Trent Alexander-Arnold and Andy Robertson firing on all cylinders. That made Liverpool really good, and that's been an element that they need to adjust to. With Mark Guéhi, that's a no-brainer, really. I think they're going to get him cheap, and he's a top-class player. Liverpool reportedly remains committed to tying Ibrahima Konate down to a new contract, despite his form taking a nosedive this season. The Frenchman's current deal expires in 2026, and in recent months there has been plenty of speculation linking him with a move away from Anfield on a free transfer next summer. Real Madrid and Paris Saint-Germain have been the two clubs most heavily linked with Konate, but it emerged last week that Madrid has informed Liverpool that it has no intention of signing the France international.
One Liverpool star has a lot to thank Mo Salah for this season: Virgil van Dijk. Virgil van Dijk's standing at Anfield should not make him immune from criticism. He's the captain and needs to lead by example on the pitch, just as well as he does off it. Few of those involved at Liverpool have much to thank Mohamed Salah for this season, but one man does: Virgil van Dijk. In truth, there should be no one at Anfield more grateful to Salah than the club captain, because the Cop's Egyptian king has proved to be a human shield for the Dutchman during this disastrous title defense. Salah has had more criticism than anyone in Arne Slot's imploding team, as the defeats have racked up and the questions have been asked of how things are going so badly wrong after last season's triumph and a big spending summer. Salah is deserving of the flack he's getting too, because he has looked largely disinterested and disillusioned since the start of the campaign. But what Salah's struggles shouldn't distract from is the inescapable fact that Van Dijk has been just as woeful. There is an enormous amount of respect for Van Dijk at Anfield. He is the captain, talisman, and de facto spokesman. Where others shy away, he fronts up and faces the inquests after each defeat. He does it every time. But what Slot could do with more than anything else is for Van Dijk to do his talking on the pitch, not just off it. He needs his skipper to find his defensive voice again, to start asking the tough questions of his teammates, while also standing up in the face of adversity. Perhaps there is too much respect for Van Dijk, but his exceptional standards have slipped, and those singling him out have also slipped into the shadows. Liverpool's defense revolves around the leadership of Van Dijk, but it is one which has conceded 35 goals in 22 games this season, including 11 in the last 5 matches. Liverpool have kept just 5 clean sheets, and the time has come for Van Dijk to take some responsibility. In truth, Van Dijk has a lot on his plate. Liverpool don't have a recognized right back that you can hang your hat on after Trent Alexander-Arnold's exit. Left back Milos Kokesh may have cost £40 million from Bournemouth, but simply looks out of his depth, and fellow centre-back Ibrahima Konate is out of form. The simple explanation is that Van Dijk might be getting dragged down by those around him, but his experience and ability mean he should be above this. He was at fault for Sunderland's goal in midweek, but remains largely immune from those pointing fingers of blame. Slot will need Van Dijk to be at his strongest and most commanding when Liverpool travel to Leeds this weekend. Elland Road is not for the faint-hearted. Just ask World Club Cup champions Chelsea. There will be nowhere to hide, and Van Dijk must set the example for others to follow.
Liverpool line up Jurgen Klopp 2.0 to replace Arne Slot. Liverpool could hire Jurgen Klopp's 2.0 version if Arne Slot is fired. The Dutchman cannot go on for much longer at Anfield if results and performances do not improve. A draw against Sunderland may have just saved his job temporarily, but merely by a hair's breadth. Slot still has much to work on, and anything but 3 points against Leeds United on Saturday could put his job in jeopardy. It does not matter that Leeds beat Chelsea midweek. They are a newly promoted side, and while Elland Road is a hostile place to go to, a team of Liverpool's aspirations should be beating them comfortably, even in their own yard. Especially a team that has spent more than £450 million in the summer window and boasts stars like Mo Salah, Alexander Isak and Florian Wirtz. Unfortunately, 3 points is simply not guaranteed. If anything, with the way performances have been under Slot recently, a defeat is far more likely. Should Leeds get a win, it will pretty much be the end of Slot's era at Anfield. Liverpool will exercise patience, but patience can only go on for so long. Ultimately, the manager will be sacrificed. So then comes the question, if not Slot, who can actually come in to replace him? Looking around the manager market, it's a bleak state at the moment, perhaps even bleaker than it was when Liverpool were on their impossible search to replace Klopp just under 2 years ago. However, there is one interesting candidate who is in the running and who could be a bit of a Klopp 2.0 at Anfield. According to Court Offside, Richard Hughes and Michael Edwards are now doing background checks on Oliver Glasner, who they view as someone who can become the next Klopp and replace Slot if results do not improve. Glasner is Austrian, but he was educated in the same Bundesliga and gegenpressing foundations as the former Liverpool manager. Wherever he has gone in recent years, Glasner has been successful. He delivered a Europa League title with Eintracht Frankfurt and won the FA Cup and the Community Shield with Crystal Palace. Now he's on a mission to win the Europa Conference League as well. In terms of Palace, they are a well-drilled side who have a solid defence and rarely give chances away, so Glasner would definitely be able to solidify Liverpool's leaky backline. Whether he could become Klopp's 2.0, as the report suggests, is moot, but he could be an interesting appointment.